Hey, creative. Are you as prolific as you wish you were? Do you produce as much work as you think you can or think you should or wish you did or saw some other creative producing? I think that's a very common problem with creatives. I think it's a problem with humans generally, but I think especially with creatives, we sometimes struggle with that, the quantity of production. Well, in this episode of the Business of Creative Business podcast, I want to maybe share some tips with you and share a book with you that I think might help with that. We at We Films are pretty productive. I mean, we have a pretty good body of work considering how young our company is. And it's because I think we've learned some of these lessons along the way of how to generate creative work in quantity. So one of my favorite examples of this, I think we all probably in our fields, whatever we love, whatever art forms we love or follow, have some artist, some creative who is just like performs and creates this incredible amount of work. Well, for me is Stephen King, right? The writer, the horror writer, Stephen King. The guy writes like this. Okay, this is a collection of his short stories. This is like a collection of side things he's done. Look at this. Like he writes these gigantically long things, and he's written I don't know how many hundreds of novels. It's ridiculous how many books this guy's written. Okay, well, I want to share with you another book that he wrote that was, when I read it, was very eye-opening for me, and it speaks to this problem of how to generate art, how to create at scale, how to create larger quantities of work. And it's one of his few nonfiction books. Did you know he wrote a nonfiction book? Okay, so this is the book, Stephen King. It's called On Writing. See there? Written like, I'm sure, in blood on a wall. On Writing by Stephen King, the novelist. Okay. This book opens a window into King's writing process and how he became a writer and how he actually does it. But it's a super book for any creative. I know you maybe not be a writer, but it doesn't matter. The rules are the same. Here are the big breakthroughs that I took away from this book that I have applied in We Films that has helped us a lot to generate a decent body of work. Okay. Stephen King, in that book, he says he wakes up every single day, and he sits down at his desk and he doesn't get up until he writes 2,000 words every day, every single day. He says, they don't have to be good words, but I don't get up from my desk until I write 2,000 words. Now, he said, sometimes that takes an hour. Sometimes he's there for 9 hours, but I don't get up till it's 2,000 words. Now, if you do the math on that, 2,000 words times 30 days in a month is 60,000 words a month. That's 180,000 words like a quarter a season. And if you look at the average, and so 180,000 words comes out to, I don't know, 600, 700 pages, something like that. That's the average size of a Stephen King novel. He writes a novel like that once a season for a year. But he does it because he writes 2,000 words a day and he doesn't get up from his desk until he does that. Now, here's what that has to teach us as creatives. The first lesson to learn from that and to help start breaking through for you to create more work is screw your talent without discipline. Okay? If you don't have the discipline of a job with your talent, with your art, you're not ready for prime time. If you're sitting around and you're waiting for the giant idea to hit your brain before you start working, you're already done. You're toast. You got to get up and write those 2,000 words a day, whatever your version of that is. If it's painting or songwriting or sculpting, I don't know, but you got to get up and do those 2,000 words. So screw your talent without discipline. The second thing, the second takeaway from that is inspiration follows work and not the other way around. Inspiration and ideas follow work. King, in that book, he says his creative muse is not like some people envision it. It looks like an angel or some sort of, I don't know, mythical figure. He says his creative muse is like a guy with a big walrus mustache who wears fairy wings and smokes a cigar and sits in the back corner of his office. Right? It's Stephen King, of course. So it's going to be something like that. And he says this fairy of his, this idea fairy of his, sits in that room and says nothing to him until he gets up and goes to his desk. Sits down at his desk, starts to write, and before long, his creative muse looks over his shoulder. It's like, "Oh, what you doing there, Stephen?" And kind of starts looking, and he says, "Then the ideas start to flow, but they only flow after I sit down and actually start doing the work." So those are the two things to take away from this book on writing. It's good for every creative art to help you produce more and create more. Screw your talent without discipline, and ideas and inspiration follow the work, not the other way around. All right. You can do this. You can do this. Grind on this. You will be glad you did. You'll look back in a year and you will be so proud of your body of work. All right. You can do it. I love you.